So here it is. This is the Huawei the P30 Pro, and you've probably seen all the videos, all the hype that's been generated about this mobile here. And I want to try and get past that hype and just look at this phone like I always do with all my reviews. Detailed review, not afraid to let you know about any cons that I do encounter with this phone. And I can give you a little spoiler here that yes, it's a great phone and it probably has one of the best top 3 or 5 or whatever cameras on it, but it's not quite as perfect as everyone is leading on. That I have discovered a few little things, and with the software and a couple of little kind of annoying things like software dimming, the screen dimming that they are doing, it's still around and it's a little bit more subtle, but it's still there. So you probably know the specs of this phone, and I do have them listed right up here for you spec junkies out there. Kirin 980, 8GB of RAM, 128GB of storage is my particular version. We've got a 34 megapixel front-facing camera, and we have a water drop style notch, so we are missing out on some of the security that we had with, say, the Mate 20 and the P20 with the face unlocking. So it's going to be a little bit more basic here. It's just 2D scanning. Rear cameras, okay, the main one that everyone is raving on about is, of course, 5 times optical zoom. But it's not actually a zoom, it's more like 5 times magnification, because if it was a zoom lens, it would be able to move and we could have optical times 2, optical times 3, but in my testing, that is digital. They use what's called their hybrid zoom for that. Then we've got a 20 megapixel ultra wide, which I absolutely love having on mobiles. Of course, the Mi 9 that I recently reviewed does have an ultra wide as well. Very good to have. This is what we get inside the box. So you get a quick start guide, warranty card, the supercharger, which is 40 watts. That's 10 volts, 4 amps, which is quite a lot. And we get some earphones here, so that's Type-C, and then Type-C to USB cable, and right here a SIM tray tool. Now I was half expecting to get a case within this, and sadly no case. The phone weighs 190 grams and is 8.6 millimeters thick. That's without the camera bump, and with it, that brings it up to then 9.9 millimeters. So let's start out with the front-facing camera. You can see next to the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus that it has a slimmer top bezel, thanks to, of course, the water drop notch that it has on here. Within it, we've got a 32 megapixel camera with an f2.0 aperture. The edges of the screen do have a curve to them, so very similar to Samsung screens, which is why this has quite a Samsung look to it. This phone, for me it does at least, on the sides. Now you notice that we've got the buttons on the edge here, that one of them does have red on it, just to let you know that's the power button, of course, volume up and down. They have a nice feel to them, pressing them in, nice and firm, and they do not rattle around, everything like that. So it is a slim phone when you look at it side on, and that's where it's got that very Samsung look to me. So the bottom of the phone has a squared off look to it. It's all metal, the frame around it. It feels very solid. It is a slippery phone in hand, of course, being all covered in glass. We have the SIM tray here that does have a gasket around it. That's part of the IP68 water resistance that it has. And you'll see that we have a microphone and then our loudspeaker right here. And up top, you'll find a secondary mic that's used for noise cancellation and in video, and an IR transmitter, 2 antenna lines either side. So the color that I opted for, well, the one that's actually in stock, I really had no choice, is the black, which almost looks silver, and it does have a mirror finish to it. So in hand, it feels good. It feels a lot like my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, just so similar. Just like a Samsung Galaxy S10, the S10 Plus in hand is good, easy access to the buttons. You have to move your hand up a little bit, but I find that it's not too wide for me. This is good. This is a good kind of size. Perhaps maybe a little bit too tall for some people. Now we've got a fingerprint reader on here and also face unlocking. I'll demonstrate that very quickly, that it takes about a second to unlock. So you need to wake it first, then press and hold. And it unlocks. You can see that was about a second. I'll do it one more time. So tap, about 1 second, or even under a second. I find overall it's good. And in my time using the phone, I haven't had any issues. The accuracy, I would say, is about 9 out of 10 times. It seems about as fast as the one that's in my Xiaomi Mi 9, perhaps even a little bit quicker with that on there. I'll show you also the face unlocking. That is even quicker. So most people will probably just use the face unlocking. However, remember, it's not going to be so secure that you might be able to get a high resolution photo blowing up and fake that and get it to unlock with your face. A good photo. Do that one more time. Unlocks really quick there. Let's take a look now at the screen in greater detail here. So the maximum brightness tops out at 780 lux, which is very good. You can see it in sunlight just fine, and it seems about the same level, I would say. Well, not quite actually, as my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. I would say that is better in sunlight and just a little bit better or about the same level as my Xiaomi Mi 9. So the gamma 2.2 is what it should be at, and it's about 2.4 here, which is not bad. For most phones are about 2.3, 2.4. Now through the settings, you do have options to change the white balance, the saturation, and by default it's a little oversaturated, and I find that the normal setting is best here. And what I've got it on right now is that, and I just wanted to show you here that you see at the top here, you're going to get a little bit of color shifting with the OLED panel. So at certain angles, it's going to shift out and look perhaps maybe with a little bit of a blue tint to it. Very minor. And it's not really going to be an issue, I believe, for most people, because if you look at the display, you're normally looking at it directly face on 9 out of 10 times. I don't believe that you're going to be looking at it like that, but you can see it shifts out a very tiny bit there, and the edges and the top, that's the only real thing. But that's, of course, what you get with these displays. So when you look at real-world images, yes, they look good. It's a great display. Don't get me wrong, but I believe that the Mate 20 Pro screen is better. My Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus screen, again, better than this one here. And I think for the price that Huawei, come on, they should have put a 1440p panel in this. It'd just be a little bit sharper and overall slightly better. If they could have used one similar to the Mate 20 Pro, I think would have been perfect. But it seems they are reserving those screens for the Mate 30. There is another thing with the display I wanted to point out, and it's because of the curvature of the display, that sometimes when you're touching the screen, for example, see my finger on the right, that it's touching the screen a little, that will register, where I've found that with the Samsung phones, they tend to ignore those accidental touches a little bit better there. It really depends on what application you're in. Stock apps, they seem to detect the mistouches a lot better on that display, on the curvature, but it's other ones like the third-party apps that you install don't tend to. So you will get the odd occasional accidental touch. Now the performance of the UI, multitasking, everything like that, I've found for the most part to be very smooth, very good. Things pop up well, fine. Load times, no issues. As you see, the storage is very fast. But when I was syncing Gmail, I just happened to notice that Gmail was syncing, pulling through some emails. I got some very bad micro stutter that I saw. So when I went to swipe like this, it was all choppy and not the kind of performance you would expect from the phone. Clearly to me, that's just a software bug. They need to do some tweaks that when the phone is syncing through messages, emails and things like that, that it just needs to be optimized a little bit better in regards to that. So it does come with quite a bit of bloatware on here. We have these top apps, so they install Amazon on there. We've got Booking.com, Facebook. That's bloatware. Then you get a few Huawei things. This is all kind of normal. I mean, take a look at, for example, my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. That does have a lot of junky bloat apps on there that you don't want. So it's running Android 9, and it is EMUI, which of course is their own. And this is up to date. At the time of this video, yeah, I ran all the updates. Make sure I'm on the latest version. So your home screen styles, you can change it if you don't like what it is. So you can use an apps drawer if you want, instead of having it just to swipe to the left, but you can override the launcher. So this is one thing I could not do on the Chinese version that really irritated me, that the Chinese ROMs, they will not let you set Nova Launcher or Apex Launcher or any third-party launcher. They force you onto this one for security reasons, but you can change it. That is good. So camera API 2. We're getting limited support here. So on other phones like the Xiaomi Mi 9, you get full or level 3. Here it's just limited support. DRM, if people are asking about that as well. So it's DRM level 1 cert. So yes, Netflix in full HD, not a problem with that. Another thing too with the face unlocking, I wanted to point out that make sure you set it to direct unlocked. Otherwise it'll unlock, you still have to swipe. It's a bit of a security feature and to stop people peeking, I guess, at your notifications, so you swipe first. So here's our Antutu score. Very good score, but it was on the performance mode. So remember that. That's clocking all the cores right up to maximum, pushing absolute top performance here. And you notice the weakness probably here is the GPU. So the Adreno, the 640 that's in the Snapdragon 855 will get a score of about 150 something there. So quite a bit better. But do you notice that difference in games? Well, depends on the game. On very, very high settings, I'll show you some gaming later on, you do see maybe a little bit of a difference there. Internal storage speeds, very good. So this has UFS 2 spec, I think it is 2.1, and really, really fast. So almost, well, 830 reads, almost 200 megabytes write, and look at the random reads and writes, very, very quick. So that's really good performance from that there. So this is our 4G, and I get onto 4G Plus, so that is good. And speeds, you know, it all depends on your carrier. So no problems with the reception, signal strength. That has all been good. Voice call quality, I wanted to mention that as well. Okay, we don't have a traditional earpiece in here. It's missing, and it doesn't sound to me as good as my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. Is it a deal breaker? I don't think it is. It's okay, the call quality, but if you must have the best earpiece call quality, make a lot of calls, then maybe you won't like it. Okay, wireless. So I did some testing here, not quite as fast as I expected, but it's still perfectly fine. So when I went over to the other side of the apartment here, of course the speeds are going to drop off, but I was checking that. Compared to other mobile phones, this is perfectly fine. No complaints with that. And GPS. Okay, so here we have the GPS that it does have level 5. So we've got level 1 and 2. So it's dual band, sorry. Dual band. And how we can tell this is right here. So you have your CF. So this is the frequency it's talking about there. And we're on frequency level 5. You can see a few level 5 satellites popping up there. And B1 as well. So definitely dual band. So it covers that with GPS. So what does that translate into real world GPS use? You're getting an accuracy about 4 meters. That is really all you're going to get. 3 to 4, and that is fine. It follows me around perfectly fine. I don't have any issues at all with GPS on this phone. Okay, and that was just something that I wanted to point out about the always on display, that it's off by default, but yes, it is there, as you've probably seen. There it is. Okay, and it does shift around, so it's not going to burn into that OLED panel. Now, there is one area I wanted to talk about too, and that is we're having the issue still with the screen dimming. So what's happening is certain applications that have white backgrounds, bright backgrounds, the software is toning down the brightness to save on battery. Very hard for me to demonstrate this on camera now because it is such a subtle change in the brightness that you will not actually pick it up. So I have the screen now set to, I think it's 250 lux, and now if I bring up Chrome, and you'll see ever so slightly, it will start to dull down just a tiny little bit. Now, I believe that most people won't even see this. It's so minor, the adjustment. So it will go from 250 lux down to then about 150. So it'll drop about 100 lux, sometimes about 70 or 50 lux only. It really depends on how it feels it wants to adjust that. So I don't know what it's using for that, if it's using an ambient light sensor, and then it's calculating on the go what it wants to do for the battery saving, but it's just annoying to see this. I don't believe the app dimming, it's happening also in Google Play Store as well. I don't believe it's a deal breaker. It's just an annoyance to me. And unlike the Xiaomi that I have, I'm having no problems with the notifications coming through. They are showing up at the top and they're not disappearing after a while. Now onto audio quality. So the Type-C to 3.5mm, it doesn't come with an adapter in the box, which is kind of odd. But I tested it out, and I just have to comment and say that it doesn't quite sound as good as this phone right here. That's my Xiaomi Mi 9. The Mi 9's output, to me, sounds better, Type-C to 3.5mm. And does it sound better than the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus? I don't think it does either. So it's not, I'm not saying it's disappointing, it's just not quite as good. That's all to my ears. And we have a single downwards firing loudspeaker. We don't have a secondary one up the top, which I think is a big mistake. They should have included that. So I'll give you a sample now of the loudspeaker up against the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. And let me know in the comments which one you think sounds better. Okay, I think that the P30 Pro sounds a little bit better. Just a single loudspeaker, if I was to block off this top speaker and compare single downwards firing to single downwards firing, yeah, P30 Pro gets the win there. But however, because I'm here in person, of course, I can hear that top speaker. To me, it just gives it a little bit more of an edge, especially when you're gaming and things like that. That secondary loudspeaker really comes into play then. One of the tricks up this phone's sleeve, like other Huawei phones, is you've got the desktop mode here. So it's just a single cable, so Type-C to Type-C to my VinPot split monitor. Now this is 1080p, it's touch, and it's just working from that, which is good. Now you may need additional power if you do something demanding like playing videos or very heavy multitasking. You might find the screen could cut out then, but so far me using it, it hasn't done that. So you've got like a desktop mode here. You can see this looks like a Windows XP background completely stolen from them. You touch this and it brings up the menu. So you run it like a desktop, like a little PC, which is really quite handy. So if you travel a lot and you want to answer your Twits, your WhatsApp messages and everything like that, you can do it all from this with a Bluetooth keyboard or even the on-screen keyboard. As you can see, I can bring that up now. Well, that's just the input method. So if I go here into Chrome, tap up there, you can see there's the on-screen keyboard and you can type away with it with absolutely no problems here. And just load in one of my websites. So this would load in as per, say, a little Android tablet or something like that. So it's very fast. The scrolling performance is good, as you can see. And overall, the performance I find to be very good. Gives you basic information down here at the bottom. So you got your battery percent, the time, and everything you really need to know. And it's just so convenient to have this. And I know a lot of people won't be taking advantage of this, which is a real shame. And now onto gaming. So this is PUBG, obviously, no introduction is really needed. So it is running on the ultra frame rate and on the high settings, the highest you can get, which is HDR. So Ultra HD not available. We're getting this massive ugly border either side. So that's just a software problem that needs to be corrected. And I am getting a few accidental touches with this on each corner. So when you zoom in, the frame rate is really good. No problems, you can see. It's keeping up with everything. I mean, this is top-end hardware still. It might not be the most powerful GPU in Android now, but it is still really good. And no problems. You will not see any lag, slowdown, nothing like that. And then this game here is Shadowgun Legends on 60 frames per second setting, and then the very high settings. And you can see you get the occasional little stutter to begin with, which just paused, but it was like a loading in textures kind of Android problem that even with this hardware still happening. But I have noticed that I think on the Mi 9 with the Snapdragon 855 that this game is just a little bit better optimized, runs a little smoother, especially when you're in the lobby. In your lobby and you just look around really quick, you get the occasional little stutter with the Kirin 980, but the Snapdragon 855 doesn't do it. It's not to say that this performance is bad at all. No, it is very smooth, super smooth here, playable. It's just that little bit smoother on the Snapdragon 855. So if you want the absolute best gaming performance, I recommend, on Android at least, you can see then some more stutters and another little stutter there. So this definitely runs better, this game, on the Snapdragon 855. So go for example, like the Mi 9 or the Black Shark 2 if you're a big gamer, or the Vivo IQ00 that I reviewed. I've got my review of those phones, of course, in the channel. Okay, so what about thermals? Is it getting warm to the touch? Well, it feels a little warm. And as you can see, 30 degrees. That is after about 30 minutes of gaming PUBG and Shadowgun. 31. Flip it over, of course. Check the front of it. Still got the game running. And a little bit cooler actually on the front there. You can see about 27 degrees. So the longer the play, it was going to heat up, but it's only going to get to, I would say, about 33, 35 maximum. That's about it. Okay, so on to the camera, where a lot of you are probably waiting for my opinion on this. Now, I'm not a professional photographer, but my personal experience with these cameras and with the Mate 20 Pro is I think it's a little overhyped. Sure, they take amazing photos. They take really good photos for social media especially, but there's a lot of filtering that's been applied. There's a lot of post-processing. There's a lot of sharpening. It even tells you, so when you take a photo, it will often say and come up, please hold still, sharpening. So it's sharpening the photo. So you get the photo onto your PC, 200% crop is when you see this. So you really have to pixel peep at things to see that, yeah, it's not quite as good as all the hype and the marketing would tell you. So to control our different lenses, right down here, very easy. That's our wide. So the ultra wide, your normal wide, and here we have 5 times. So it's a fixed 5 times magnification. It's not optical zoom, because if you change it over, then here to say I want only 3 times zoom, you find, as you'll see from my examples, it is digital, and this to me is a little bit disappointing. I guess I was a little bit misled by the marketing and the way the periscope setup worked, that I thought it could actually be optical. We've got AI mode that I would probably never use. They're master AI. Our flash controls right there, different filters, different settings. Video only 4K 60, no. So no 4K 60, because I find the Kirin 980 really struggles to encode video, and you'll see in my samples that in low light, and even during the daytime, you do get some panning stutters. So right now I'm shooting in 4K. This is the wide-angled lens, and this is great for looking at clouds, weather effects, and things like that. It does look really awesome, I find, especially photos. So you can see those clouds really well. a bit of sunshine just coming through at the moment. So I'll swap over now from that ultra wide to our main lens. Now this one also has optical image stabilization. There's also optical image stabilization on that periscope 5x lens, but as you'll see when I use it, it does a very poor transition. It goes to 10x digital for a millisecond, and then as you can see, while I can get nice and close, this is only useful for stills. For video, you need a tripod, you need a gimbal, and even then I think you still have a little bit of a shake to it. I'm trying to hold it as steady as possible, but it seems there is no optical or electronic image stabilization being used at all here, which is a real shame. Now you can go to the ×10 mode, but it's just a digital zoom and a mess. So I'll go back now to that one here, just demonstrate to you how well this electronic image stabilization works. I'm walking towards the castle. You can see that it's working really well. Very good. Just as good, if not perhaps better than the Xiaomi Mi 9, which has very, very smooth electronic image stabilization as well. So when I pan around, you see there is a little bit of jerkiness, some stutter to the panning. That's just a trait of the electronic image stabilization. Audio seems okay, but we might have a bit of wind noise because it is windy at the moment here. So I go back now to the ultra wide and I walk along again. And you can see stabilization, even though this only has electronic image stabilization, it's not optical, only the main lens, and then the periscope has the optical. It's still very good. And you see more stutter though, however, and not quite as sharp on the ultra wide lens. I find the 4K video. Take a look at that cloud formation above here. You can't even see the mountain. Okay, so here we are now with a front-facing camera. You only get 1080p max. Now, I thought there'd be a reason for that. Okay, they're limiting us to 1080p because they're going to use electronic image stabilization with the front-facing camera. But sadly, no, you can see it shakes around a little. Okay, I'm exaggerating then, but we don't have it. Now, this is something I believe that all flagships should have, and a lot of manufacturers aren't doing this. For example, Samsung, when you use 1080p, you get electronic image stabilization with a front-facing camera. Now, it does not have an autofocus on the front-facing camera, and this is both a good thing and a bad thing. So it depends on what you're looking at. You might not have focus, but sometimes with my Samsung, the focus can be a real pain because it will sometimes lose focus, or it'll pulse in and out, or focus on the background and not focus on your face, which you want. So it's optimizing the exposure for my face, which is good, but you can see the background, especially the sky there, is blown out, but that's not too much of a problem because what's in the picture, what's in subject, of course, is me, so that is fine. It's just, to me, the stabilization. It does need electronic image stabilization, definitely here. And the audio quality, it's not suffering from that problem that the Mate 20 and the Mate 20X had with that horrible reverb kind of echo effect. It's not happening anymore, so good to see that Huawei at least cured that. So here we go, this is a low light sample now where it starts to drop a lot of frames and it actually does a terrible job in low light video. You can see that's Ruffy can barely make out his face. Ruffa. Yeah, not good at all. Now, if I swap over to the wide, of course, bad, because that lens is not going to let in a lot of light at all. So that's to be expected. These are very difficult conditions, of course. And if you go over to the 5x optical at night, see if I can find Ruffa, there he is. You can see no. It's not good at all. It just looks terrible. So I wouldn't be using this camera for low light video. Alright, so I wanted to comment a little bit on the photos, what I've seen. As I pointed out, the video with the 5x magnification is disappointing. I don't know why, I think I was misled by other videos from other people. I expected it to be very smooth still, or at least have some electronic image stabilization, which it's missing. Now there may be some people in the comments telling me, yeah, that's because it's not enabled anymore, or you didn't enable it. It's enabled by default. You cannot disable electronic image stabilization. It's either not working, I've got a faulty unit, as most people would say. But that's one area where I'm definitely disappointed, because I was hoping I could use that video. I love video, I like taking a lot of video. The fact that I cannot connect and use an external mic, still with the Huawei software, you can use it with one open camera, which is okay. You get around that and you do get stabilization, so that's okay. I can live with that. So the quality of the photos, low light, definitely very, very good. It's probably the same kind of level, maybe not quite as good as Google's night sight, Google's camera, of course, with the Pixel 3. I don't have one side by side to do a comparison there, but this is what I'm going off. It's definitely better than my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, definitely better than the Mi 9. Very good low light. Video stability is very good. Audio, better than the Mi 9. Audio is good as well. I didn't notice any problems with that funny reverb that I used to get when recording selfie or vlog video in front of you. Sometimes got this horrible echoey kind of effect. They seem to have finally fixed that. It was an issue and still is an issue with the Mate 20 Pro and the Mate 20X. But that's gone, which is really good. So battery life, I don't have full battery life figures here, but it is looking very, very good. It looks like it's definitely going to be, I would say for most people, even a 2-day phone before you need to charge. So you're going to get at least 1 day. Performance of the ROM, very quick and snappy. However, one thing that I did notice is when you have, for example, sync on, or it's just going to sync. I noticed when it syncs Gmail, it will cause some stutter in the UI. So I went to then swipe across, and I noticed there was all this micro stutter, that it wasn't a nice smooth transition. It was jut. And that brings me to the other issue with the ROM. It's something that they're doing, Huawei, with a very aggressive battery saving, trying to get that really good battery life for everyone. Application screen dimming. You see it, but it is now so gradual. Before it used to chop down and you would see the backlight chopping down, the brightness. But now they've made it so linear, so the transition so smooth now, so subtle that you almost don't see it. But I've picked it up because when you go back into the UI, go into different apps, you'll notice the brightness will go up a little. You go into Chrome, you go into Play Store, Twitter, and you see the brightness drop down. Now to me, this is quite annoying, but for most people, I would say 9 out of 10 out of there will not even see this or not even notice this change. You have to be on manual brightness setting as well, I think, for it to happen. I think on auto brightness, it's also happening there. Why do they have to do this? I guess they want to say the battery life, but to me, it's very annoying that, and it does irritate me, but is it a deal breaker? No. Not a deal breaker unless you're super picky and fussy about having the exact same brightness, which does, of course, affect my battery test. Normally I set 200 lux, I do my test. So now, even if I set 200 lux, we know that when I use Chrome, it's actually only going to be about 150 lux. It's going to dim it down about 50 to 80. So yeah, it is a problem, and I hope they address that with software and those bugs there. Build quality is really good, feels nice in hand, the slimness of it. I actually do like the squared off edges on there. They've changed that a little bit. I wish it had the 3.5mm headphone jack. Missing out on that, which is a shame, but the audio quality is okay. Okay, earpiece. I don't know, other people say it's fine. To me, I don't really like it. The earpiece quality, okay, compared to my Samsung, right here, is worse, okay? We don't have a traditional earpiece. Even the Mi 9, it doesn't sound as good to me, the earpiece. It's fine, it's acceptable, and again, probably most people will not have an issue with that, but the sound quality, if you make a lot of voice calls and you want an authentic, traditional sounding earpiece, it's not this one. It sounds good, it sounds fine, it's just lacking maybe a little bit in the bass, I'd say. The problem, the highs are there, the mids, the lows is where it's kind of missing out. So it transmits through it, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so I have a final video with the battery life. I will probably do a camera comparison if I have the time and I can, between this one right here, which is Xiaomi's Mi 9, half the price of this phone, by the way. So thank you so much for watching this long review, and yes, I know that I am quite strict and picky on things, and that's not just because I paid for this myself. I'm like that with all of my reviews. So if you are new to the channel and you like this style, then please do like the video and subscribe for more up and coming videos. Bye for now.